This meeting is being recorded.
All right, welcome out to another episode of the GI Gridiron 64 podcast. It's Wednesday evening, and we're not live. We're pre-recording. It'll be uploaded tomorrow morning at around 10 a.m. or so. But we are here, and this evening we're here. We're going to talk. We're going to recap the 2022 season, the 5A Division II Region 4 District 15, which includes two of our Coastal Bend area schools, and then the other four are from the Valley. But since they're in the division, we'll talk about all six teams. And on the screen, you can see I have my partner, TJ Riddell, Riddell. TJ, how you doing this evening?
Fantastic. I mean, I got a whole new setup again. As you can see, the hats are hanging up. It's not just Ingleside. Right here, you got Cal Allen as well. If any schools would like to have me buy their hats, I'll be more than happy, and I'll start making a whole wall of hats for all the Coastal Bend teams in the area. So I'm trying to get something going here, Gabriel, with my hat collection.
Hey,
So
you heard it here on the Gridiron. So all you got to do if you want TJ to buy one of your caps is just message him here on the Gridiron 64 and just say TJ and the school, and he'll find his
yeah,
way to purchasing a cap or something from your school. That's a cap because he said all the caps, and you'll see it on the back of the screen there when he comes on. So if you're interested and you catch this podcast, just put the school. TJ will find his way out there, I'm sure, and then you'll see it on the back end
hopefully
of the screen.
hopefully some of these schools might want me at their pep rally because I kind of want to represent the GT sports community, the
Mm.
Gridiron 64 community, to witness other schools' pep rallies because I've seen the Ingleside pep rallies before. I've seen small school pep rallies like Normandy and Moody, Texas, but I haven't seen a Rockport pep rally. I haven't seen a West Oso. I actually got West Oso fans to say, yeah, come to West Oso pep rally. So if you guys are school board members or anybody that orchestrates a pep rally at your school, and if you want one individual from the Gridiron 64 podcast, it doesn't have to be me, it doesn't have to be Gabriel, it could be Tony as well. Um, Shoot us on the Gridiron 64 podcast group page and ask us to come to y'all's pep rally. I mean, I'm sure we're gonna have to have visitor badges because that's the way it goes. And if y'all got merchandise there, I will buy it. I will buy it. And I am a fan uh of pep rallies, So I am a huge fan of pep rallies. So if your school has a pep rally and you guys want me there and y'all want me to hype y'all up too, like Pat McAfee style, I'll do it. So
Hey, it was great. I'll tell you, I like pep rallies too, man. It pumps you up right before game time, right? A couple of hours before game time. When I was in school, man, I enjoyed the pep rallies. They were great. And I wouldn't mind going down there and streaming it live on our page if that's what we need
yeah,
to do to let the community or the Coastal Bend area, South Texas, know how rowdy a school can get. So I'm down for that. That's a good idea. And of course, TJ said he'll buy your cap. So definitely, if you're interested, definitely just post up on our comment section here. Just put down the name of your school. TJ will find his way to purchasing a cap from your school. And then, of course, like you said, you'll see it on the background here when we come on every week to do our podcast. So, man, that's great. That's great. TJ gonna do that. And now I'm interested in doing some pep rallies this
yeah,
next year, man. It's
yeah. Let's
badass.
do it, Gabriel. We'll get our pom poms ready for the gridiron side.
Yeah. It's a
Gee,
great idea, man. It's all part of what we do here. We're looking to live stream the games, and so that's part of the package, right? The pep rallies to start during early in the day or early in the afternoon, and then it carries on to the game. So yeah, we've got time, and I can go down to school and stream it, man. Yeah, heck yeah, it gets rowdy, and you can let the community know how rowdy a school can get. So I'm definitely down with that. Great idea there, TJ. And
definitely,
so
definitely a great hype man, especially for a pep rally right here. So if you
absolutely.
guys want me to talk and hype your team up for the pep rally, just let me know. We'll figure out a way to coordinate as far as that. I love pep rallies, Gabriel. I don't think I can I don't think I can say enough about pep rallies. Like I think pep rallies and fight songs are the biggest keys to make high school football the way it is, And same way for college football.
Yeah, I'd have to
You know,
agree with that. I definitely have to agree with that. And this evening, we're gonna turn our things over. We've got two teams from the six teams that we're gonna talk about. It's the 5A Division Two, the District 15, 4 teams, but from the Valley. So we really don't know a lot about the Valley. Whatever we can catch up on Max Prep or whatever they talked about, and is what we've got on them. We've got more on the two schools here from the Coastal Bend area because we're from the Coastal Bend area, so we pay more attention. But because they're in the district, we also want to talk about them as well. And they'll be back next year. So as I said, as every year that the Gridiron comes on, we become a little bit better, and hopefully our audience will grow because we're going to look to grow our team and be able to try to talk about other teams outside of the 37 teams that we cover here in the Coastal Bend area. So hopefully we're going to do that next year, looking at adding 10 more teams. So we'll see how that goes. But TJ, for tonight, this was a two teams, the Coastal Bend area, two teams were 1 and 2. I think it's they battled it out, man. But I just kind of want to do a little recap of the teams. If there were any surprises for us, were you surprised that some of these teams, the way they performed? Were you disappointed that they didn't live up to expectations like we thought? And so we'll start off with number 1, the Pharr Bluff Hornets. They went 10-4. They were 5-0 undefeated in district play. So a very tough team that, to me, got better. We've seen them do this a couple of years where, in the non-district, they'll lose 1 or 2 and they don't start off as strong as somebody would think, but boy, they, in the middle of the season in the district, they really start, getting it going. And then right before playoffs, man, they're hitting on all cylinders, and they usually make a deep playoff run. This year, they were kind of, to me, in a pretty easy district. I took a look at it prior to the 2022 season starting, and I didn't see a lot of powerhouses from the Valley. Mercedes, I thought might give a run, but GP was the other team in the Coastal Bend area that I thought these two teams would fight for the district title. Pharr Bluff ended up winning, but I'll let you go kind of break it down, then I'll throw my 2 cents in it. So what do you got for the Pharr Bluff Hornets in 2022?
So 2022 was a slow start for Pharr Bluff. I think Pharr Bluff historically has been a slow starting team as far as non-district. They went 2-3 in non-district, and then they just exploded right out of the gate in the district play. I mean, if you look at the schedule here, Gabriel, they played against Bernie, who was a state finalist, played against China Spring and almost beat China Spring pretty badly, but China Spring ended up coming back and winning that game. And they lost 35-32. So that was it was a good loss for Flower Bluff, but at the same time, we kind of expected better out of Flower Bluff. And this is a young football team for Flower Bluff. I mean, sophomore quarterback, incredible quarterback. We'll talk about his stats here in a little bit. Laredo United South, they beat them by 7. I thought that was a kind of a concern for Flower Bluff. I thought they would beat them by more. And then we get to the Cal Allen game at home, where Cal Allen just completely took over the game, beat them 40-7. And then they lost to Alice by 1. 21-20. And then they played against your Rockport Fulton Pirates, Gabriel, and you were there live streaming. You know more about the game than I do. I kind of want to get your thoughts about that game, like as far as what you thought about the Flower Bluff Hornets. Do you think that was a turnaround for their season, or because they literally won every game up until Liberty Hill? Do you think that was the turnaround for their season?
Or I do. I think they came in. They were able, I think, to try different things. The quarterback was young, and the receivers and the running backs just very athletic. But they used this kind of a fast tempo when they started, and I think it threw Rockport off a little bit. But they were hitting on all cylinders in that game. I think they were trying to do a lot of different things. Remember, they had a young group of guys didn't really know. They were trying to feel their way, and so I think that Rockport game for them was something that could give them confidence moving forward. And they got a huge win. I mean, that defense really shut Rockport down. Rockport's offense is, with A. Seibert at quarterback, they had a really good quarterback. They had, running back. They were a little, young, but they had some guys that could make some plays. So I think the defense, able to shut Rockport's offense was huge for them. But offensively is what I was impressed with. Just, the way this sophomore quarterback was running that offense. I told some people after that game, I said, watch out for Flower Bluff, man, because this kid, he can play. So I think confidence absolutely played a part. It helped them in that huge win over Rockport, and then they got rolling from there. So yes, I do think that
Yeah.
that was
Speaking of rolling in defense, up until the Gregory-Portland game, they've had 2 shutouts, and that was against Valley View and Porter. And they only allowed Edcouch-Elsa to score 14, and offensively they outscored every team up until Gregory-Portland, and that was a hell of a game. I don't like to say hell on the podcast, but man, I take exception to that in this game. But the one team that really caused concern for me for Flower Bluff was Mercedes, and Flower Bluff was able to take care of Mercedes. And there was a little bit of squabble going on between the two teams, but at the end of the day, Flower Bluff was just focused and prepared for district, And we always talk about non-conference schedule too, like slow starting. I mean, look at Vets; they had a slow start and they ended up winning district as well. So, and they had a deep run too. Mm-hmm. So, for Flower Bluff, I think the turnaround was Rockport, but I think the key win for this Flower Bluff team was GP and also Mercedes, because those are the 2 next top dogs or top cats, I mean, in this district, And I mean, yeah, it's an easy schedule because you got Edcouch-Elsa, Pharr Valley View, and Porter, Brownsville Porter, who really haven't been the best teams out of districts in the last several years, But I mean, Flower Bluff has some dogs out there, And you know how I like to say dogs a lot. So then we look into their postseason run. They had a really good game against Roma, which that was kind of expected, 56-21. Then they beat Lockhart 49-42. Cause of concern there. I thought Flower Bluff was going to be able to hold Lockhart to a certain amount of points. And then they played against San Antonio Veterans Memorial. They beat them 66-42, but man, defense has to get ready because Liberty Hill was coming into town, literally coming into town, because they played at Flower Bluff Stadium because of weather concerns. And Liberty Hill beat Flower Bluff in the 4th round of the playoffs 63-43. So it wasn't a bad season for Flower Bluff. It was actually a really good turnaround season, kind of like last season where they went almost all the way to the semifinals. And I will say this, Chris Steinbrook, the coach for Flower Bluff, he has done a phenomenal job with coaching over there at Flower Bluff. He is a heck of a coach, and I just see a bright future with this team, especially at the quarterback position. Number 4, JJ Pelucio, he's also a catcher in baseball. So that's pretty strange. A quarterback playing catcher,
Yeah.
Normally you would think, man, he's a pitcher out there, especially with the stats that he has. I mean, listen to this, Gabriel. 217 completions, 346 attempts, 3,120 yards. That's a completion percentage of 0.62 or 0.627%. He averaged out almost 14 and a half yards per play. In each game, he's thrown over 240 yards. And he's thrown 41 touchdowns and 7 interceptions as a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
As a sophomore. Now, this is a more we're going to throw the ball and hurt you on the throw type of team, but they got some guys that can run the ball too. They are going to miss Martinez, number 27. He had 130 carries for 765 yards, almost 6 yards a pop. So that's not bad, especially for a spread offense like Flower Bluff. And he was able to score 9 touchdowns. They do have number 22 Johnson coming back, who had 73 carries and 440 yards, and he had exactly 6 yards per game, and he would average out almost 34 yards a pop, 34 yards a game. He had 6 touchdowns. I mean, there's a lot of rushing touchdowns with this team. You would think Flower Bluff as a throwing team because Pelucio also had he also has 3 rushing touchdowns in his resume with 317 rushing yards. This kid can not only throw the ball, he can run the ball as well. So watch out for Pelucio as a really, really rising star, and he might make the top 10 list tomorrow, Gabriel. Tune in tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock on the Gridiron 64 podcast. I'll go live, and this will be before this video pops up. So be sure to tune into that because I have my top 10 list, and it has to do with all of the Coastal Bend. So stay tuned for that. And then they got Tyler, who's leaving as well, number 8. He had 23 carries, 178 yards, 7.7 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns. I mean, the total number of rushing touchdowns is 25, Gabriel. So, and the total number of carries 342, and their total yardage is 2,043 yards altogether.
Wow.
I mean, and that's not including the rest of the Hornets that played because you also got Menchaca, Dixon are the last 2 guys that had 100 yards rushing. And then you got the backup quarterback Cargill and Mims, Simpson, Elwood, Johnson, and Skrobarzik. You know, I mean, these guys are dogs. You know, the Hornets anyway, and they'll bring a sting to you. Now on the receiving end, we got 2 receivers that are at 100 yards receiving, over 100 yards receiving. Dixon, the sophomore, also a sophomore with Pelucio. So you're going to see a connection between those 2 for the next 2 years, Gabriel. Number 9, Dixon, 48 receptions, 874 yards. He almost averaged 20 yards a pop, and he averaged 67 yards per game. He has 9 touchdowns. And then you got Meshi, who's leaving this year, number 23. He's got 57 receptions. He's leading the team in receptions. 805 yards, averaging a little bit over 14 yards a game, averaging 62 yards a game, and 10 touchdowns. Now, the leader of the touchdown receptions is Elwood, who's also leaving. He has 35 receptions, 507 yards, averaging 14.5 yards per game, and almost averaging 51 yards a pop or per game. And he's got 12 touchdowns in his resume. And then the last 2 guys that actually score touchdowns is Johnson, who's a junior. He'll be the leader of the wide receiving corps next season. And then you got Mims, who's a sophomore. Johnson with 427 yards with 25 receptions. Mims with 28 receptions with 363 yards. They both have 5 touchdowns apiece. And then you got the rest of the guys, sophomores and seniors that rarely got any receptions. And then you got a Soul Junior Jones, who's number 88 this season. He had 4 receptions, 31 yards. So you're looking at a reloading crop here, Gabriel, as far as the receiving core. And I mean, this team is good, but they gotta they gotta they gotta protect the ball a little bit, you know, especially when fumbling the ball. This is kind of where I look at. They fumbled the ball 11 times and they lost it 5 times. So in 14 games, 11 fumbles isn't bad, but I would much rather have 0 fumbles in a season, you know, and especially a
Right.
fumble lost. So 5 out of 11 fumbles isn't bad, but it's not great either. So uh, I'm pretty sure Coach Steinbrook over there is making sure those guys are carrying the football the right way and they take care of business. Now, defensively, the star defensive player this season was a sophomore uh, by the name of number 2, Marcus Jones. I mean, this guy is an incredible athlete. Um, he had over 70 total tackles. He had 54 assists and 20 solo tackles. And next to him is 2 juniors that share 68 total tackles. Johnson had 29 solo tackles
Mm.
this season. Number 18, Johnson. And then Schmidt, he had 50 assist tackles. So he is a great backup uh, tackler. So, or a gang tackler. So that what we call a gang tackle, Gabriel, is when somebody needs help tackling. Say if someone needs to help tackle King Henry because we all know that son of a gun is big and he's tough to tackle. So say if Greenwood was running the ball, nobody's going to take him down one-on-one, right? So you're going to ask your other linebacking core and some of your secondary to come in, and that's where Schmidt comes in. 50 assist tackles, that's impressive. Um, and then another junior, number 1, Arigua, 64 total tackles, 48 assists. He's also an incredible gang tackler as well. So a lot of these guys are really swarming to the ball, is what it looks like to me for Flower Bluff. And you could say it for your end too. Like you can see how that defense just mirrors the offense and is able to attack on point. And I think that's what happened in that Rockport game, if I'm not mistaken, right, Gabriel?
Yeah, I mean, Rockport really never got going to sustain some drives or get on a roll. They just, there was a lot of three and outs. There was some turnovers, but the impressive part was how Flower Bluff was playing on both sides of the ball. And they
Yeah,
started from the beginning and the end. Well, what impressed me about that game was they started quickly and they never stopped, right? And so they were never in any danger of really losing that game. But what I'll say about Flower Bluff is that they're coached very well, and I don't know that their coaching staff and all those assistants over there get enough credit, for the. I mean, because you can always have talent. I mean, it's a pretty
yeah,
good sized school over there, and I'm sure that they always have talent. But just because you have talent doesn't mean you're going to get in there and win ball games. You've got to coach these young guys. The quarterback Palacio Rapolicio. Hopefully, we're saying his name correct. He's a sophomore, so he's a young kid that I
yeah,
look at programs all the time, and how you start never really matters to me as to how you finish. And that's the one thing about Flower Bluff is they get like vets. You said they just get better. They're not going to
yeah,
sustain losing, multiple games like on a 4 game losing streak. And you see their young players continue to get better. And this is why this program is always on top, or they're one of the teams always competing for a district title, no matter where you put them, because they play their young guys with the veterans, with the older guys, and you got this quarterback coming back as their leader for 2 more years. So you can just see, but I don't think that their coaching staff gets enough credit with the head coach and his assistants on the job that these guys do,
yeah,
preparing these guys for the opponent that they're going to play, and just continuing to work with them and building confidence in them and getting them better every week so that when they hit district in the playoffs, this is exactly when this team rose. So Yeah, great season for me for Flower Bluff, man. They
Yeah.
were awesome, and they're probably gonna be like that next year. Now, I'm not willing to make a prediction at this moment right now because
Yeah.
I think there's still another 2 or 3 teams that may be in the mix. But before the season starts, absolutely, I'll make that prediction. So I'll ask you
Yeah.
now: Are you ready to make a prediction right now on who's going to be district, or are you going to wait till the season gets closer?
Absolutely not,
Okay.
Gabriel. I will not.
Okay.
But I will say this about Flower Bluff's defense, and I will mention their gang tackling skills are incredible. So they have a total of 796 tackles
Mm,
altogether. Their assist tackles 509.
yeah.
509 to 796. I mean, that's incredible to
That's
me.
how you win football games. That's exactly how
Yeah.
you win. You swarm to the ball. It's gang tackling. That's
Hey,
the name of the game.
you're you just said the key word, swarm.
Yeah.
Hornets swarm, They play like their mascot. They are Hornets. They will swarm to the ball. And
Yeah.
speaking of swarming to the ball, they're losing their top leader in sacks. He's a senior this year. Uh, Bradford Jennings. I mean, this kid is incredible, dude. He didn't play the entire season. He only had 8 games that he played. But boy, when he was in, he made it worth it. Eight games, 4.5 sacks.
Mm.
4.5 sacks when he was playing. And when Jennings was out, it just seemed like nobody was up there besides Ariagua, who really helped the team out with sacks with 2.5 sacks in the season. But in just 14 games, they only had 13 sacks, Gabriel. So you got to ask yourself, is Flower Bluff actually bringing a lot of blitzes? Are they playing a lot more zone than blitzes? I mean, what's going on there? I would think that Flower Bluff would be more aggressive on defense, especially with their gang tackling. But
I don't remember in the Rockport game if they blitzed a lot, but I know that our quarterback never got comfortable back there. They I mean he was I can't remember.
yeah,
I'd have to go back and watch the actual film. But yeah, but what was impressive to me was their tempo and their skill
yes,
positions, and they didn't have just one guy that they could go to. They had multiple guys that they would throw the ball to and run to. So when your team has multiple guys you can go to, and they can make big plays, puts a lot of pressure on your defense, and that's the way Flower Bluff plays. They don't really rely on one guy, quarterback, to do it all, or a running back to do it all. They share that ball,
yeah,
which is
for
just,
sure.
and this is what makes them tough, and like I said, they're coached very well. So putting all that together is why you have them going into deep in the playoffs. They ran into a Liberty Hill team that was just tougher than they were, but I think the season that they had and the loss to Liberty Hill is just something that the coach can definitely build on into the offseason. And this team in 2023, man, they're going to be right back there again. I don't know where
Yeah,
they'll finish. We'll talk more as football season comes around in summertime, right before the season. But man, I can't see this team not again coming back strong to defend that
yeah.
district title, because it'll be
I
the
I
same
agree.
teams that they'll play. So yeah, I gotta say, man, Coastal Bend, for these other teams, Flower Bluff ain't going nowhere, man. You're gonna have to
Yeah, for
beat
sure.
this
I
team to
think
get that title, because they're gonna be tough again next year.
yeah, for sure. And then you got on the secondary side, you got some athletes out there. You like you said, their skill position's impressive. Tover, their leader in interceptions, is leaving this year. Uh, he was number 5 for the Flower Bluff Hornets, and he had three interceptions. But it seems like this team, they can create turnovers, but they've had 9 interceptions in 14 games. So it's not the greatest stat right there, but they
That's pretty
can
good.
create turnovers.
Yeah, that's pretty good. 9 in 14
Yeah, it's a
games.
it's a pretty good stat. I'm not gonna lie, it is a pretty good stat. But I kind of question why don't they blitz more to create turnovers and to get these guys more interceptions or sacks, And part of it is Jennings getting injured in the middle of the season. I think that's part of it. And I'm not one to critique a coach's logic because I'm the guy that picked TCU over Georgia, It it's that type of situation. But you got Tover, who's a senior, who's leaving. He was the leader for that secondary, along with Tyler, who had 2 interceptions this season. He's leaving as well. But you got some juniors and sophomores who really stepped up to the plate for Flower Bluff. Dixon, who's also Pelusio's #1 target for next season, I believe. He had 2 interceptions. And then you got Roberts, number 20, who was a junior this season, going to be a senior next year. 2 interceptions for him. Then you got Johnson, who had an interception, and Schmidt, who had an interception. Both are juniors. And then you got some sophomores and juniors coming up. This team, like I said, overall is reloading. They're not rebuilding, they're reloading, And they have a handful of guys that are leaving, And Tyler Shaw, another great athlete for Flower Bluff, he just committed to Texas Tech. So he's going to wreck them. I don't normally throw the gun up. I used to as a kid, and I regret it. But it's good to see that Flower Bluff is getting the recognition and the guys that are going to D1, like Tyler Shaw. He was a phenomenal lineman, and they're going to miss him a lot. That's one thing for sure.
He wasn't. I don't know their grade classification, but in watching them, the one game that I did, they got some big boys there, and on that line. He was one of just a few, but one of about another 3 or 4 that I saw up there. They're not small on the line; they're big boys down there, and so they always have the line. And so this team is going to be successful. Like I said, they've had a coach. Their coach has been out there for some time now. Built a great program. I remember there was a time, in the 90s where you wanted to play Flower Bluff because everybody could beat them. That is not the case now. And he's done a phenomenal job out there building that program up and bringing the coaches that he has and building confidence because they're contending for district titles and deep playoff runs pretty much every year. That's the expectation out of Flower Bluff. And they had a great 2022 season. And some people may look at this podcast and say, why are they talking so much? Well, I've asked TJ to do this because in this part of our podcast at the end of the season, we want to talk about the recap and players specifically that are coming back. That's what TJ does his research to talk about players that we need to watch in 2023, and then talk about some of these guys, especially Shaw, who went to D1. He's from Corpus Christi, right? He's from the Corpus Christi Coastal Bend area. So we want to shine light on our talent that we have down here. And this is why TJ does what he does. So, we spend some time as much as we can breaking down these teams and the season that they had. And importantly, who are the players that are coming back that we will be talking about in 2023 and watching those guys. So it's not only about the guys that have left and what they've done this year, but also what's coming back, because we'll be talking about them, TJ, in 2023.
Oh, for sure. And one more thing before we move on, Gabriel. I really like when I first moved down to Ingleside, I could not understand why Flower Bluff hated Ingleside. But
they hate Ingleside. I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, funny story. I'll tell you the story off the air. But let's just say that one Flower Bluff fan. He doesn't represent the Flower Bluff base, because when I talk to Flower Bluff fans, they are nice, they are genuine, and they are respectful. And I will say this Flower Bluff team they are going to be mean this coming up year, and honestly, I could see them going for another run, dude. I really do think so. But this next team that we're about to talk about may say otherwise. They have a bright future, and I was talking about it earlier before we started that that we I'm s- I'm sorry. So I think this next team that we're going to talk about, Gabriel, is going to be one of those teams that is going to they're going to make some noise next season. So
Right.
I'm not
And
picking. Like I said, I'm not making my prediction yet.
yeah, I
But
can't
I
make
will say
mine.
that.
Yeah, I can't make mine either because we still got to wait for the magazine, the Texas magazine, football magazine, to come out and see what they are talking about. And that's what I do. I read up on that stuff first, and then I make my prediction. That's what I base a lot of my predictions on. I read the Dave Campbell, the uh, the magazine, the book, right, the football book,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that tells me a lot. And then the information that I've gathered and what I read from that magazine helps me make my picks, and because I want to get them right, right. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a team that I like here, and I have certain teams that I root for, but on the podcast, I try to get my pick right. And so we'll go to the second team in this six-team bracket that's from the Coastal Bend area, and that's the Gregory-Portland Wildcats. They were the second place team in 2022. They ended the season 8-4, did make the playoffs, obviously, but they were 4-1 in district play. So I didn't see the Wildcats, the GP Wildcats play at all this year, just on articles that I read. But you did go to a game, so I'll pass it over to you and let you do your thing about the GP Wildcats.
Man, I will tell you what. I went to the GP Wildcats and Bernie game. Now Bernie played another team in this district, and that was the GP Wildcats. You
Did you
know,
go? You went to the Bernie or Cal Allen?
Bernie.
Okay.
Or actually, I went to both.
Okay.
So I went to the Bernie and Cow Allen game first, and that was before I wanted to live stream games. And that was a Thursday night, and GP's defense really impressed me against that Cow Allen offense, which was a slow start for Cow Allen's offense, which we'll go over that in weeks time. But GP lost to Cal Allen 22-12. I mean, it was a horrific injury that happened late in the first quarter. Uh, I mean, I wish no kid or nobody in the NFL experiences injuries like that, let alone the DeMar Hamlin injury. But that was a horrific injury for GP, but they ended up getting a big win over Carroll, which was a very surprising team this season, 42-0. Then they beat Victoria East 49-28. Then I went and tried to live stream the Bernie game, which we had some technical difficulties, which is fine. It happens. And Bernie absolutely, the Braden brothers are just incredible over there in Bernie, but they absolutely torched that secondary for GP and ended up winning 52-27. Then they get on a really good 5-game win streak, beating Port Lavaca 41-22, Brownsville Porter 72-0, Edcouch-Elsa 46-0. Two shutouts, by the way. And then they play against Mercedes 45-12, Gabriel. 45-12 against Mercedes. And you're thinking, wow, GP might win this district. And then they play against Smart Valley View. They win 59-3. So Valley View avoided a shutout against that tough GP defense. Then we get to the heavyweight matchup between Flower Bluff and Gregory-Portland. Well, it was back and forth, and it just turned out that GP couldn't win the game. It was 36-34. Flower Bluff ended up winning district and that game. And so GP has to be the number 2 team in the playoffs. So they play against Mission Valley Mission Veterans Memorial, and they beat them 64-6. So we're thinking, wow, GP is going to make a big run, right? So then they play against a very tough Alamo Heights team, which we thought that Alamo Heights was going to end up winning that game. Some of us thought it was GP going to win that game. Alamo Heights beats GP 31-8. So, I mean, this was a roller coaster of a season. You could just feel, the roller coaster. Two big losses to two very talented teams, Cal Allen and Bernie, in the non district schedule. Then you have a 5-game stretch where you're just dominating. And then just to play against Flower Bluff and you're this close and you just can't even get there. And there's nothing wrong with losing by 2, but it's heartbreaking. And GP is on the rise. Their stock is rising. I really do think that they are going to be a legitimate threat this coming up year. Now, are they going to win district? That is yet to remain to be seen. We still have to see their roster. We still have to see who's coming back, right? So, who's coming back? So, Reedon, he's not coming back. He suffered a horrible season-ending injury. They had to have Colton Harrison step in for a couple plays. When he did, he completed 6 out of 8 attempts, 39 yards, and he didn't throw a touchdown, but he did throw an interception, so that was on him. But Reed Dooms, remember this name, sophomore quarterback, number 8, 124 completions, 202 attempts, almost 2,400 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. He really stepped up his game to help this team. I think Reed Dooms is the future of GP, and I think he's going to bring he's going to be the big key for GP and that balanced attack that defense or that offense runs. So we look over to the rushing side, and we got a senior running back who has had a historic run with GP, but it comes to an end. Number 7, Dalvin Batts. I mean, this kid's impressive. If you watch him live, he struggled at first in the very first game against Cal Allen, which we all get there. It's the first game. We get the jitterbugs. But he exploded this season, man. 216 carries, 1,332 rushing yards, averaged 6.2 yards a carry, averaged 111 yards a game. And his longest run was a 64-yard run, and he had 17 rushing touchdowns. So they're going to miss Dalvin Batts in the run game for sure.
Yep.
But they are also losing Marina, who's number 5 on their roster. 95 carries, 538 yards. He averaged almost 50 yards a game. 7 touchdowns for him. And then they're going to miss White, who had 44 carries, 201 yards. Every time Dalvin Batts made a big run, he'd step in and he would perform. He had 1 touchdown this season, and they're going to miss him. Reedon as well. Redden, he was a very good dual threat quarterback, and I honestly think GP would have won that game against Cal Allen if it wasn't for his injury. And that's saying a lot because Cal Allen had a terrific year, but I really do think that GP would have won that game if Redden didn't get injured, because he was really hurting that defense on the carry or on the run with 8 carries, 90 yards, and 1 touchdown total. And then you got Dubose, who's leaving as well. So you're seeing a lot of guys who have carried the ball. They're leaving. But watch out for Harrison next season. Colton Harrison's little brother. Uh, Harrison, he had 3 carries, 12 yards. He didn't get a touchdown, but then you got Juarez who had 5 carries, 11 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, do we see GP as a passing team this coming up year? We don't know yet. But let's take a look at their receivers. Uh, Dubose, as I said, he's leaving. He's their leading receiver in receptions and yardage. 59 receptions, 1 yard away from 1,000 yards. Just not there. But he got 12 touchdowns in this season, and then you got Colton Harrison, who is a stud. He's a junior this season. 30 receptions, 80 or 813 yards, and 10 touchdowns. And then you got Catalano, who had 16 receptions, 385 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And then they'll lose Velasquez, 8 receptions, 99 yards, and 1 touchdown. The freshman Harrison, who had 7 receptions, 90 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But yeah, so this offense is losing a lot offensively, but I still think GP is going to be good next season. I think their team is going to be hard to deal with. And let's talk about their defense. Now, Juarez, he's the leader of the defense in tackles. 60 solo and 41 assists. That's 101 total tackles. And you got Mitchell, who is a dominant force on the D line. I saw him in person twice. He has been in the backfield many times. 67 solo tackles, 26 assists, 93 total tackles. And these two guys average 10 tackles a game. And Juarez averages 7 tackles for a loss, or he has 7 tackles for a loss. And Mitchell has 5 tackles for a loss. So that's pretty good. And then you look at Goolsby, who's leaving. He had 53 total tackles, but he had 15 tackles for a loss. But you got a lot of young guys on defense that's going to step up to the plate next season for that tough GP defense. And then you look on the sack side. Goolsby, 8 games. In 8 games he's played, he's had 1 sack. So 8 sacks in each game, or 8 sacks this whole season. And for 12 games altogether, they've had 19 sacks. So that's pretty impressive for GP right there.
Mm-hmm.
So they will send the hounds on you. They're a balanced type of defense as well. So I think they are a very, very scary team to deal with next season. And you know what's crazy? Their secondary only has 3 interceptions total. Hernandez Jr., who's a senior this year, who's leaving, he had 2 interceptions but played 4 games. And then you got Molina, who's a senior. He had 1 interception but played 8 games. So GP had a lot of injuries going on this season, but they absolutely had a phenomenal season this year. I look forward to seeing Reed Dooms play and start for the Wildcats. I think that this team is going to be a legitimate threat to Flower Bluff, and I look forward to seeing GP play next season.
Well, I'll say this: the battle between the Hornets and the Wildcats, that's Flower Bluff and Gregory-Portland, right? It's been good. It was good this year in the district round. Of course, Flower Bluff getting a 2-point. But if you remember the year prior, they battled it in district play, and then they met again in San Antonio in the playoff with Flower Bluff. So these teams, if you love football, and you're from the Coastal Bend area, when these two teams meet, it's going to be good. I don't think one team blows out. That has not been the case the last 3 or 4 meetings that they've made. It's been good back and forth, and we'll see what happens. With the loss of some of these guys, and Flower Bluff bringing some of theirs back. We'll see if the game stays close. But the one thing I'll say is Coach Davis, Brent Davis, out there important. This is his second year of being there, and just a phenomenal job that he has done early on with the Wildcats. We're accustomed here in the Coastal Bend area to seeing GP in the playoffs and dominate, right? And for a while there, TJ, they just were not dominant. They just couldn't make the playoffs. They just just couldn't get it going. And then so they make a coaching change, and Brent Davis comes in, and quickly he gets these, he's opening up some eyebrows here in the Coastal Bend area. Okay, here comes GP winning a couple of games, being very competitive, getting into the playoffs, and here we go. So I think with Davis at the helm out there in Portland, I think you're going to continue to see this team continue to compete. We'll be very competitive in games, and in this district that they'll come back to next year. I think early on, I think it's going to be Flower Bluff and Gregory-Portland again, but I do think that GP will continue to be competitive. This team will get better.
Yeah.
They've got some young guns down there. They're coached very well, so I don't see GP dropping from the ranks in the district. I think they're going to be right there again next year, and we'll see what ends up happening. But yeah, GP, what a heck of a season. The 2-point loss to Flower Bluff. A play here, play there. They end up being the district champs. But second place is not bad, and so they did pretty good. So, do you have anything else on the Wildcats?
No, I just think that they're going to be a very competitive team like last season. And Cow Island, you might want to watch out because Reed Dooms is coming.
Yeah,
He is coming.
And that this is going to be really great. They'll be playing Cal Allen the first regular season next year, and then of course the Flower Bluff game. Yeah, so it's going to be a good 2023 season next year for the Wildcats as they play Flower Bluff in the district round. They'll have Cal Allen. It'll be tough, but we'll see what GP does next year. And then of course the next 4 teams, TJ, I'll do it this way. They're not from the Coastal Bend area, so we do not pay as much attention to them as we do to the Coastal Bend area. But I don't know what TJ has, but at number 3, it was the Mercedes Tigers. They were 6-6 and 3-2 in district play. And then the 4th place team was the Edcouch-Elsa Yellowjackets. They were 4-7, 2-3 in district play. And then at number 5, we had Brownsville Porter, the Cowboys, 4-6 overall, 0-5 in district play. And number 6, Valley View Pharr Tigers, 1-9 and 1-4 in district play. So, TJ, I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't know if you have any stats. If you want to talk about any one of these 4 teams from the Valley, you got the floor, buddy.
So I do have stats for you, Gabriel. For Mercedes, they're gonna lose a very good athlete that they have. I mean, they're losing quite a bit. They're losing their starting quarterback. They're losing their starting running back. But this is a well-balanced run offense right here for Mercedes. They're losing Trevino, who's a senior. He had 154 carries, almost 1,500 yards rushing.
Wow.
Almost averaging out 10 yards a pop. So, yeah, he's a very good running back. And they're going to miss him. His longest run was an 80-yarder, and he had 20 touchdowns this season. But it doesn't say what this kid's class is. And Ciso, I don't know if he's going to be gone, but if he's not gone, this district needs to watch out for this kid. 127 carries, 751 yards, 5.9 yards a carry. That's just about 6 yards. His longest run was a 52-yarder, and he had 10 touchdowns. So you already know this is a run-based offense right here. So, and we don't pay much attention to these guys, which, as we should, we need to start watching these guys a little more.
We will.
And we will. And, yeah, so they're going to lose number 4, Cisneros, who had 85 completions and 138 attempts, 949 yards passing. So that tells you right away, this team is either a really good option team or they're a really good. I formation. We're going to smash mouth football, y'all. So that's the type of football that a lot of old heads love is smash mouth football. So that's what Mercedes is. They are a smash mouth team. But he had a pretty impressive 7 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, though. I will say that. And for a team that doesn't run the ball, that's pretty good. And then they got a guy named Villarreal. He's a junior that's coming up as the senior quarterback next season. He's gonna he threw 32 for 72, 455 yards, so about 500 yards almost. His completion percentage wasn't really all that great, but he had 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions this season. So hopefully he could be better than that next season. But it just seemed like Mercedes just wasn't the team that we thought they would be this season. And I hope they are better next season for the better of the district. But it looks like they're losing a lot of guys this season offensively, and defensively they look like they're going to lose quite a bit as well, because some of them guys play on both sides of the ball like GP and Pharr Bluff. But then we look at Edcouch-Elsa, okay, who went 4-7. They were the 4th team in the playoff. They got knocked out by Mission Sharyland 32-7 in the playoffs. But so they also run the ball, man. Like, they have multiple guys that are over 100 yards rushing, but it just seemed like nothing was going their way this season and offensively. So their quarterback, Amaya, who was a senior this season, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions with 761 yards passing, 45 completions, and 100 yards. Now, if you look on the rushing, Amaya, this is a triple option offense. I can tell you that right now. They are either wing T or triple option. If the quarterback has 72 carries and the rest of the team has less than the quarterback, they are either triple option or they are wing T. I will tell you that right now. 72 carries, 107 yards total this season. No touchdowns for him. But the leader in rushing is De Leon. He's a sophomore this season. He has 43 carries, 349 yards, averaged 8 yards a pop, and he had 2 touchdowns. And he had a 54-yarder that was his longest. But I'm assuming this is his brother, De Leon Jr., who's number 14. He's a senior this season. 67 carries, 306 yards. Averaged a little bit over 4.5 yards, which isn't bad. His longest run was a 55-yarder. He had 3 touchdowns. Kano, who's a senior, he had 2 touchdowns this season with 36 carries and 201 yards rushing. And then Pharr, he's leaving as well, number 1. 31 carries, 124 yards rushing, no touchdowns for him. So they had 7 total touchdowns rushing, which that's kind of concerning if you're an option team. Then you look on the receiving end, De Leon, the sophomore, 324 yards receiving. He is the leader in receiving yards and rushing yards on this team. Okay. So watch out for De Leon for Edcouch-Elsa next season. But you're losing Garza, who had 193 yards receiving, and Kano with 90 yards receiving. And by the way, Garza was the leading receiver with 12 receptions. So, yeah. But there was a lot of fumbles, and they lost all of them. Every time they would put the ball on the ground, they would lose it. 14 fumbles that they had and lost in 11 games.
You're not going to win very many games that way.
Was that?
You're not going to win very many games that way.
For sure. I mean, now, I think the Edcouch-Elsa, I think they're losing a lot of guys offensively, but defensively, they got a lot of young guys too. They really do have a lot of young guys. So you're going to see a lot of new faces on Edcouch-Elsa, and you're probably going to see might be a little bit better coached, a better crop of guys out of Edcouch-Elsa. So Mercedes, you might want to watch out for Edcouch-Elsa because this team might be hungry next season. Not for a fourth spot, but possibly that third spot if they can't get to GP and Flower Bluff. Mercedes, on the other hand, they want to be there with GP and Flower Bluff. Edcouch-Elsa, they just want to beat Mercedes, And then we look at Brownsville Porter, who went 4-6, just missed the playoffs. They went 0-5 in district, losing to Valley View 35-23, Edcouch-Elsa 24-13. Flower Bluff getting shut out by them and getting clobbered by Mercedes 56-7 and getting shut out by GP as well. I was very surprised that they were 4-6 and 0-5 in district. I thought they would have had a better chance as going on in the season. They would have a better chance of winning some games in district, and it just did not happen. But they're losing Stevens, who's their senior quarterback, 75 completions, 126 attempts, 908 yards passing, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So he threw the ball to the other team quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So rushing the ball, they didn't really have a problem with that. 74 carries, 603 yards for Williams. He's a senior. He's leaving. So you got 4 seniors that got the most yards out of anybody. They're gone. From Williams to Stevens, Ibarra, and Sanchez. Williams had 603. Stevens had 589, which this was also another case of a triple option offense that can kind of throw the ball. And Ibarra had 259 yards rushing, and Sanchez had 105. Now, Stevens had 11 touchdowns. Williams had 7. So they got 18 total touchdowns rushing. So that's not that bad for 10 games, but at the same time, if you're a triple option offense, you should have more than that, Receiving wise, besides Williams, nobody went over 100 yards receiving. Guess how many yards receiving Williams had?
What's that?
703 yards receiving. So if I'm a defensive coordinator and I'm looking at these stats, and I'm sitting here like, he's the only guy getting targets. He's got 63 receptions and 703 yards. The next man up on the receiving is Poi, and he's a junior, 6 receptions and 79 yards. So that tells me that he was getting open each and every time. He found a way open each and every time. And they're going to miss this guy. 7 receiving touchdowns for Brownsville Porter. Goodness gracious. But I will say this. If they dropped the ball, their team was on it. So they fumbled the ball 5 times this season, but they never lost it.
That's a plus.
That's impressive to me. So, yeah. So offensively, they're gonna lose quite a bit. I don't see anything defensively. So that's all I got for Brownsville Porter. I don't know why I keep saying Portal, but last team we're going to talk about is Valley View, which this team really was coming in on the weaker side of things. They really haven't won any games except for Brownsville Porter, and they did have a close game against Edcouch-Elsa. They almost ruined Edcouch-Elsa's hopes and dreams of being in the playoff. But thanks to Brownsville Porter, uh, they honestly, if uh, call me crazy, if Valley View would have beaten Edcouch-Elsa, they would have went into the playoffs. That's pretty crazy to me, with a 2-8 record. So you look at the so I don't see any stats for Pharr Valley View, but I'm seeing a lot of juniors and sophomores. So they'll be missing outside linebacker / middle linebacker Luis Fernandez. He's the first senior I see. But so two more seniors, Chris Hernandez and Kevin Estrada. Brian Acosta, number 23, middle linebacker. Roy Perez, quarterback corner. He's going to be leaving. But this is a very young football team, Gabriel, which we don't have any stats about them. We don't know what they're like.
Well, I tell you, I mean, if you're on the bottom end of this district, which is Brownsville, Porter, and Valley View, I think next year what you're trying to do is just win ball games and get into the playoffs. That should be a goal of yours.
Yes.
Just win more games than you won this year should be your number one goal. Number two is always try to make the playoffs, and I don't know if these two teams can catch any of the other two Valley teams, which is Mercedes and Edcouch-Elsa, but definitely going to talk more about these teams. And thank you, TJ. I it's a lot of work that you have to put in to look at these stats. It's time consuming.
Yes.
But I really appreciate you doing that, because I think where we want to take this podcast, the Gridiron 64, is we talk about the exposure, right? And so to do that, you got to look at the numbers. We can't go to all the games, obviously, and next year when we do stream some of them, get into the streaming slowly, right? We can't go to all the games. So we look to see if anybody else is streaming the games. We look to see what schools are posting about the game, and we pick it up from there, max prep. But, we try to get as much information as we can. We come on the podcast to show recognition to the programs that obviously are doing well. But we also talk about the other teams as well. And then the players. The players obviously are the ones that we want to be able to hype up when they're breaking records, when they are having a good game, a 300 rushing game, something like that. We definitely want to bring that out. We've got 37 teams that we cover in the Coastal Bend area. We'll cover those 37 teams next year, but we're going to try to expand to 10 more teams to make it 47. So we don't talk about all of those. What we do is we look, we have a schedule, and then if there is a team, I know I personally look at all 47 teams throughout the week. And if we can see a game that wasn't on our schedule, but a player that in that 47 that had a good game, then we bring that player's name up and the performance that he had in that game. So it's about recognizing the programs, and it's about giving the exposure to the players. So we're just a small podcast right now. We hope to grow, but that's what we want to do. So we're not about the drama, and we're not about putting people down. I'm not a coach, TJ. I don't know what that's like. I've never coached, only at the youth level, and that was difficult when I coached. And I wasn't even a head coach. I was just an assistant. But, I'm not a coach. I don't know what they go through. I don't know the game plan, the time they. What I do know in bringing in coaches is they spend awful lot of time in the office. They don't. It's not an 8 to 5. It's long hours during the football season. So every coach does that, whether you're winning or losing, and they have my respect because of that. Families don't see the husbands during the season that they're coaching, whatever sport it is. So they put a lot of time. So just off of that, I respect them. But definitely those programs that are doing some good things, we want to recognize them, right? And then the players as well.
And you know what's crazy to me, man? Like a lot of fan bases don't realize that couch coaching is not helping the cause. And I really cannot stand the couch coaches at the games. You know, like they say, run a different playbook, coach. It's not working, coach. It's like it's like if I was a head coach, I'd be like, well, then you run the play and you show me how to run. Nobody's gonna do that, you know? And that's something that us fans have to realize. And I'm calling everybody out on that because we all are guilty of doing that.
Mhm, mhm.
Like I can tell you I can tell you who's a good player or whatnot, but I can't tell you how to coach, you know. And like if if I was able to coach, I would have been on the field already and been coaching, you know. And I'm no Sonny Dykes, I'm no Nick Saban, I am no Hunter Hamrick or Jay Seibert or Chris Steinbrook or Brent Davis, you know. I'm just TJ Riddell. I am a analyst of this Gridiron 64, you know. And that's what we do. We analyze and assess statistics and we analyze and assess football teams, you know. We're not here to judge a coach's perspective. We might question a play, but at the same time, we we as podcasters, we're not coaches, you know. So I would understand if you're a former coach, Gabriel, and you go, he shouldn't have ran that offense against this defense, you know. Running a spread against a 3-3-5 defense is very tough to go against because you got five defensive backs and you don't know if they're going to send all six the linebackers and defensive linemen or if they're going to box out the outside, you know. And you know, couch coaches need to chill out and let coaches coach, you know. And that's part of the problem. And if y'all could coach, if y'all could coach, anybody could coach. That's all I'm gonna say about that. So
Well, I'll kind of chime in here and I'll say this. I've been guilty of that. I haven't done that in
yeah,
a while, and now that I have started this podcast, right, and I've had coaches on, I start to understand a lot better the other side, the time that they put in, like I said earlier, and you know they do the best they can, and that's all you can ask for. Some coaches
yeah, that's all you can
excel,
ask.
other coaches, try. But at the end of the day, I've learned, you know what, man, you got to respect just that they're in there, and it's not a
Yeah,
head coach, it's a defensive coordinator and his assistants, the offensive coordinator and his
shoot
assistants,
it.
right?
You
There's
can
just a
look at it
lot of
this way.
people that play the whole
Yeah,
game, right? But I tell people, I know that people get into the game. There's a lot of people that really get into the game. They're fans, even at the high school level, and they want to win. And I respect
yeah,
that
for
too from
sure.
the fans. I'll go to the fan side now. You want to win. And in the heat of the moment, when things aren't going away, we say things that probably the next day, oh man, I shouldn't have said that. But in the heat of the moment, it's said because you want to win, especially if you're in the playoff game, man, right? You
Oh,
just
for sure.
want to win. So you're going to critique it. The only thing I would ask is it's just to remember that, coaches, they do the best they can. They draw up a game plan. I've had coaches on this podcast to say, we draw it up. We think we got something good. It doesn't work. We find out
Yeah,
it doesn't work. And it's the chess game between both coaches, and sometimes you win them and sometimes you lose them. But I think we always
that
got to
is
remember
exactly. Yeah,
we always got to
that is
remember that
exactly
that
what.
that
Yeah,
coaches, players, man, they have feelings too, man. And when we say things, oh man, and kids, or you put it up on Facebook or Twitter, you post something, man, people, the kids read that, coaches read that, and they're humans, and it hurts. Just like I have a job, you have a job. Somebody's,
yeah,
you're
for
doing,
sure.
you're working days, nights, and you're putting everything. You're in that job, and then somebody tweets something or post something on you about your job. Hey, man, okay, I messed up, but you got feelings, buddy, and it hurts
Yeah,
when you read that. So I would just remind people that it's all right if you're gonna go and have to a buddy's house and drink a beer, whatever, and you want to talk about the game between you and your buddies, that's fine. But when we
yeah,
air out and post something, where a lot of people can read it, where parents of the child can read it or the child. We got to just think about that and just think about the effect that's going to have. So if when I got upset, I go down to my buddies and football, go to the house, to their house or whatever, and get together and we'll talk and it's over the next day, right? No one knows
Yeah.
what I said except that. But when you post that up on a posting, man, you're really, really it's kind of, you're throwing kids'
You're
names and stuff
crossing
in.
the line
We
when you
can't,
do that.
yeah, we can't. That's just a little too much. And I know we want to win, guys. I know that, but we got to be real careful with what's posted at the heat of the moment because coaches and players and their families read that and they're not going to like it too much. So that's all I would say. That's my opinion. But again, I understand.
Yeah.
I get heated up too. I've had to calm myself down. The guys that you guys that do the live streams, we talk all the time. I talk to them all the time. I say, look, we got to remember we're live and I want what I want from the people that live stream the games is to, talk about the game, bring your experience. On the Pirates Cove, I've got 3 guys over there, TJ, that play football for Rockport, so they
Yeah.
understand in the '90s, they had some success, and they have a passion, for that school because they played, and so when they talk,
Oh, I remember.
I
I
remind them,
remember the
yeah,
Dak Gwyn's.
I
Dak
re-
Gwyn was a big part of that Rockport defense
yeah, I
in the early
remember.
'90s.
And
So
I tell these guys, just remember, what we're up here to do, right? You see the defense, try to, commentate that game, but we try to stay away. And my guys, they get into the game, and hopefully, they may say something, and if we do, we'll apologize. The guys don't have an issue with it, but
yeah.
they try to commentate the best they can and have that respect for the kids and the coaches because we know that, and they know that they've been in that field house and they know how long those coaches, when they had them, how long they took in the game plan. So just, we try to do the best we can, but sometimes you do get in the heat of the moment and you want to win so bad that something blurts out, so you got to do the best you can. But after that,
Yeah.
TJ, I got to say, this is a lot of fun. You're part
Oh,
of
it
the
is. It is
sports.
wonderful to do
Yeah,
this
we're
with you,
growing.
Gabriel.
We're growing this, and here on the Gridiron 64, we look to do some live streaming. We won't go do 10 games. We start off kind of slow, but TJ and I have spoken about games that we do want to do, and in the manner that we'll do that and get permission from the people that we need to live stream the game. So we definitely look to do that and continue to grow our audience here on the Gridiron 64. So TJ, I want to thank you for coming on and doing your job. You did a heck of a job today with your stats like you always do. And I'm happy to have you on here and do the job that you do, man. I think you're going to bring more people to this podcast and we're going to continue to get it better. But I would leave you with the final word. And before I turn it over to you, just remember this was pre-recorded. And so you can definitely, it'll be uploaded on tomorrow at 10 a.m. And you can catch it on the Gridiron 64 YouTube channel, the Gridiron 64 Facebook and Twitter page, and the audio portion will be on Anchor and it will be also on Spotify. So you can catch us there. We're looking to get it in 4 more audio platforms. I think it's Google Podcasts or something. So we're definitely working. So on those Spotify and Anchor, it'll be the audio version only, but on the Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook, that will be on video. And on Anchor, it's a little football that says GT Sports, and you can catch all of our podcasts there. We've got 4. They'll all be transferred audio. So we're getting better. We're trying to move to get more audience, but just tune into that. And TJ, I'll give you the final word. What would you like to add before we call it a night?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank you, Gabriel, for having me on. And I really appreciate the fan base of the Gridiron 64 and GT Sports. We are doing we are really doing a good job, Gabriel, as far as putting videos out on time, and we're doing what we need to do as far as the Gridiron. Giving kids exposure, giving a lot of coaches exposure. I do want to bring up a little bit of news as far as the Gridiron is concerned for coaching. Now, there's a coach out there from Foul Furious. He is now the new AD for Kingsville, for Kingsville King. And that coach is Ruben Garcia. He is now leaving Falfurrias to become the Kingsville Kings' new athletic director. So congratulations to Ruben Garcia and the Kingsville Brahmas. Now, this team, Kingsville, they have struggled in recent memory. And we're going to see Ruben Garcia change that program for the better, man. I really do think that this guy can change that Kingsville Brahma's program around, man, to where they are winning more than 6 games, And this guy really helped out Falfurrias a lot this season, or really since he first came into Falfurrias, he really changed that program around. I would like to say he's the Matt Rule of South Texas football right now, because he comes into these programs that are really struggling, and really bounces them into the playoffs. It may be first or second round, but hey, you're getting more and more playoff exposure, and that's good for the programs such as Falfurrias and now Kingsville King, which hasn't seen much success in quite some time. So, and also, I got a big question for you. This involves food.
All right.
It might change our relationship, Gabriel.
Maybe.
So, pineapples on pizza. What's your take?
I eat it.
What?
Yeah, and I'll tell you a story. Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I worked with a coworker that wanted to order some pizza, and I was a little hungry, man. And I didn't bring any lunch or anything, and she ordered a lot, and she said, "Hey, you can have some of my pizza." I ordered a lot, and I said, "Yeah, I can eat some pizza, no problem." This was about 2 years ago, right? And so she brings the pizza, man, and it's got pineapple on it. And she has like 2 boxes, right? And it's just like 3 of us. And I was like, oh no. And she's you don't like us? I said, no, pineapple didn't go with pizza. I mean, you're crazy. And she goes to try it. And she was trying. I said, no, I'm not. I'll just wait till I get home or something. I'll get some to you when I get out of work. Well, anyway, she continued to press it and say, hey, no, come on, just take a bite. I mean, if you don't like it, you can spit it out. And I said, all right. Finally, after about 20 minutes or so, I took a slice and I said, but if I don't like it, I'm gonna throw it. I said, that's no problem, man. TJ, I took a bite of that pizza, man. I ate like 6 slices, man. I love the pineapple. You know what I do now? I order from Domino's now when we're gonna do like a podcast or something, and I'll order and they'll deliver it right now. I'll have it here and I'll eat it. And that's what I don't do the pepperoni no more. I do the pineapple with the. Yes, I love it completely, man. It was the bomb. I'll say it like in your football terms, right, man? The dogs, man. It was good. I love it.
Oh,
I
you
love
even
it.
threw in the dogs with the pineapple on pizza. Like,
I love it now. Oh yes, that's how I eat my pizza now.
I will say this. I am a very, very picky eater. Okay. I don't even eat salads that often. If I eat a salad, the world is ending. Okay. I absolutely hate pineapple on pizza. The first time I ever tried it, I can't eat it. I just cannot eat I used to love pineapples. I'll eat pineapples by itself. But I can't have pineapples on my pizza. I'm a meat lovers type of guy where I love Canadian bacon, sausage, pepperoni, the whole 9 on meat lovers. It may be bad for me, but at the same time, I am full meat lovers. I just cannot stand pineapples on pizza, and people hype that stuff up, and I'm sitting there like, why? There's no reason to hype it up. It's just food for one. And so I posted on Facebook today. Actually, I don't even remember what I posted, which is kind of sad. I might be going through dementia right now, Gabriel. Okay, I said I wanted to start a petition on pineapple on pizza. Yay or nay? I want to know who my real friends are. Okay, on Facebook. So surprisingly enough, I got more nays than yays as far as pineapples on pizza. Like, I don't think it's the nay on the pineapples on pizza, but it's like they would much rather not eat pineapples on pizza, you know. And I will say this: I don't even eat seafood, Gabriel.
Oh God, no, man! You live in
I
Rockport? Oh man, how is that possible? You live in Rockport and you don't eat seafood? I mean,
Gabriel,
half of our
you
restaurants here in
forgot
Rockport.
you forgot. I live in Central Texas, and honestly, what ruined it for me was eating catfish. Eating catfish is disgusting. It's like eating mud. I don't like it at all.
Mm.
I will eat crab. I will say that. I will eat crab, but I won't eat shrimp. It's the
Oh
texture on shrimp.
my God, I love shrimp. Just God,
I'll
fried
eat. I'll
shrimp.
eat.
Oh my
So
Lord.
I'll eat crawdads. I'll eat crab, and I will eat lobster. I probably just made an enemy out of the entire Gridiron 64 peeps that are on this, and they're going, why the hell is this guy even on here if he doesn't like seafood? He
And
should
he
just go
lives
up
in,
north.
yeah, you live in the coastal Bend area in Rockport, where half of our restaurants here serve seafood.
Yeah,
And
half your
wow,
revenue goes towards seafood, and
yeah.
I live here, which is really weird, and I'll go to Pops, or um I'll go to these other restaurants around here,
Mhm.
and everybody orders seafood while I order a cheeseburger, and my cheeseburgers are nothing but meat and cheese on there. So no lettuce, no tomato, no nothing like that. It is just straight up meat and cheese with bacon. And I try to find the the burger without any vegetables on it. Like they can put the vegetables on the side. I'm not gonna eat it. I'll just let someone else have it. And
Wow.
nobody's gonna. Yeah, I am a very strange individual, Gabriel. Once it
Yeah,
comes to
you know
food.
what? I love seafood. Oh my God. I've lived in Rockport all my life. So I love seafood, oysters, shrimp specifically, man. I can eat that all day. Not every day,
Yeah,
but if when I do eat, I can eat it all day, pick at it all day. But
yeah,
I'm not a picky eater, and I guess because when I was young, I had to eat whatever they cooked. I mean, if I didn't
yeah,
eat
for
what
sure.
what my mom cooked, I didn't eat till the next day or the next meal. So I learned to eat everything. I wasn't allergic to anything, so they just threw everything at me. Here, you're hungry, you eat that. That's the way it was at my house. So as growing up, I eat leftovers. My nephews, my kids, we ain't gonna eat left. I eat leftovers. If there's food there, man, I ain't throwing it away. So I'll eat the
Yeah,
next day if there's something. I'll eat leftovers. But I eat just about everything. Now I'm trying some different things. I'm trying to eat a little healthier now. So I'm eating
you on
like
the keto or
cabbage.
what?
Well, I'm thinking about probably getting there. I'm getting a little older, and so I just I read up a lot of stuff. And as I get older, I just want to eat a little bit healthier. When I was younger, I didn't always eat bad, but I ate water bread. I just ate different things that now, yeah, as I get older, I just start watching what I eat and the amount, my
Yeah,
sugar. Yeah, so I'm looking at that diet, maybe getting into it. But I've eaten cabbage, or I'm gonna start eating cabbage, spinach, things I never thought I'd buy, and I'm eating. But
squash.
but yeah,
Squash
but
is.
it's stuff that
I will
different
eat
types of,
squash.
yeah. So it's just
I will eat
different types of
squash.
things that I eat that I'm starting to eat now. When I go grocery shopping, I don't buy things that I like because I think as I get older, I got to eat a little healthier, exercise more. So, there's a lot of things. It starts with my mental part. I try to keep it straight.
Yeah,
But yeah, my food intake is a little different. So seafood, I'll eat fish. I love stuff like that, but I try to stay away from the greasy food as much as possible. But pizza and pineapple, you get a lot of nays. But man, I gotta say, yeah, I was a nay. But 2 years ago when I tried it, man, when I order pizza, I order it with pineapple. That's exactly how I eat it from now on. And it's delicious.
oh,
Great. I
I
love
feel
it.
so betrayed right now. Ah,
Yeah, it's great. So maybe next week when we come on, you'll have something else. It's kind of fun, right?
yeah,
So we,
yeah.
we, we talk football, but you'll throw another topic at the very end and we can
Yeah, for
discuss it. That was a
sure.
lot of fun. The
Or
people,
or if you guys want, we'll do it at the beginning of the show too. I mean, we could start off with just talking about the topic, and then Gabriel says, "Welcome everybody to the Gridiron 64." I mean, it's totally up to you guys. Let us know in the comments section, um, and what should we talk about next, Gabriel? Like, should we let the peeps decide?
Yeah, you can. You can put it on the
I think we
gridiron
should
and
let
see
the peeps decide.
what topic that we want to talk about, and drinks. And like I said, I'm making some changes, and there's certain things though that I don't eat, but there are certain things. But as we get older, TJ, we change
Yeah.
our diet a little bit. You got to, man. You can't keep eating the way you ate when you were 21, man, because it's not going to work for you. So you got to make the
Yeah.
changes to try to stay as healthy as possible. But yeah, we'll come up with something. You could put it out, a topic out there, see what the couple of topics, see what the peeps want to hear. But if they don't respond back, it's still was at the beginning stages. Then you can pick some.
Yeah.
I definitely like after football before talking about something different because so they can see us in a different light. These guys they can't talk about other things outside of football. So it's good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to you having something different for next week. But thank you for joining the Gridiron. It will be uploaded, like I said, tomorrow morning at 10. You can catch it on a YouTube. It's the Gridiron 64 YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook page. And then we'll put the audio version on our Anchor. It's GT Sports on Anchor. It's GT Sports, and you can follow it on Spotify, GT Sports. But on the YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, it is the Gridiron 64. TJ, thank you very much, man. Have a good night. I know you'll be on tomorrow in the morning. You've got your, what is it, the 10 best player or top
So
10
it
players
is
or
going
something?
to be the top 10 players in the Coastal Bend this season. I will have some honorable mentions, but we will not have categories this time. So it will be all around top 10 players, and whoever made the honorable mentions will be on there. But we're looking like we're going to have quite a bit quarterbacks in the mix, Gabriel.
Well, that's good.
So
We got the talent, and we got to expose that talent that's around here.
yeah, for sure. And there's only one way of doing it, and that's coming up with a list. And I really enjoy doing that, Gabriel. Coming up with a list, and I kind of want to start doing like an award for these guys at the end of the year. So maybe next year we'll come up with something like maybe a championship belt or a trophy, and we'll take it to your school, and we'll give it to the MVP at the end of the season once we get done with Dallas. I mean, at the end of the season when the road ends at Dallas, that's where we start giving the award for best team, best player, best coach in the area.
Mhm.
And speaking of that, so if you're on the best team, but you get a different coach that gets a coach of the year, that ties into that. And there's also some cases where you're best team and you have the best coach. So it's kind of like the college football awards where they give out the Heisman and coach of the year, and then they also crown the best team in the country with the national championship. But we have our own little spin for the gridiron, and me and Gabriel will talk about it more on
Mhm.
the gridiron side. Uh, it it's a long way from now for that process to happen, but we will get to that point where we will actually go to your school, give your player or give your team or give your coach a trophy or a championship belt of some sort. And we want to recognize you kids out there and you coaches out there. And if you got news for us that we don't know about, just DM us or hit us up on the gridiron. We want to know. We want to know what's going on at your school. Who's who's gonna be the next coach for whatever school. So I'm really excited, Gabriel, for this off season, and I look forward to talking more South Texas football on the gridiron. And I'm excited to just talk about the future of the 2023 season going into 2024. So
Absolutely. And next week we'll be on, TJ and I. Keep looking at our social media pages on the gridiron, and we'll let you know when the next day will be. Next week, we'll be talking about the 4A Division 1 Coastal Bend area teams. So there might be some teams again that are not from the Coastal Bend, but we're going to be the 4A Division 1 will be next week. We'll recap the 2022 season just like we did the 5A Division 1 and 2. So tune into that next week. Look at our pages, follow us on our pages. We'll let you know date and time. The time doesn't really matter because we're pre-recorded, but the date that it'll be coming out. But TJ and I will do this again next week. TJ, until then, man, enjoy your days off, man. Enjoy. I'm watching some basketball here. And I'll see you next week. Tune in tomorrow as TJ goes live on the Gridiron 64. Tune in and watch him do his thing. Until then, TJ, thank you very much, man. We'll see you next week. Have a good night, man. And peace out. Gridiron 64.
Peace, brother.
Love football, buddy. Love football.
Yes, sir.